Good morning. My name is Doyle Dobbins, and I am the worship associate today. On behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our online service. We are Unitarian Universalists, which means that we are a very diverse group of people, theologically, philosophically, racially, culturally, politically, and in other ways as well, including sexual orientation and from young to old. With all of your diversity, all of you are welcome today to the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. Today is Justice Sunday, and our service today will focus on the work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC, with an invitation to each of us to support UUSC and its social justice and human rights work around the world, especially in relation to climate change, humanitarian crises, refugee rights, every category of equality, and basic civil rights. Today, our special offering will go to support the work of our service committee, UUSC. Much of the content of our service today comes directly from the staff of UUSC. Mary Kathrine Morn, Director and CEO, and Laura Randall, Development Associate, are guest speakers today. Their complete bios can be found at uusc.org under UUSC Team. To know what is happening at First U, please read our weekly e-news or go to our website, firstuuwilm.org. Before the pandemic took us from sanctuary worship to virtual worship, we always included the ringing of the gong. That was always helpful to me. It got my attention, and it helped me to focus on the moment. Today, my wife, Beverly Baxter, will ring the gong as part of our invitation to all to prepare for worship and to listen to the prelude music.
Welcome all to this service sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. We are grateful to be invited into your worshiping community in this way. I'm Reverend Mary Kathrine Morn, President and CEO of UUSC. In uncertain times, it helps to look to times past when we have risen to challenges and tested the strength of our Unitarian Universalist values. We hope the UUSC Sunday service we are offering will provide both consolation and inspiration to your community as we honor 80 years of our UUSC history and look toward a future shaped by hope and justice.
In keeping with our theme today, the Service Committee and its worldwide work, let us be committed to justice for all. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and substance to the universe, to the world, to this congregation, and to each other. We are called to justice as part of our call to worship. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it as I light the chalice here in the sanctuary. Please listen to the poem by Sarah Eileen Lawal, Out of the Flames. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all there is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Hello, friends. I'm Laura Randall, and I would like to share a story with you about the origins of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC. This story was adapted from the history Righteous Among the Nations, found in the UUA's Tapestry of Faith curriculum, Faith Like a River. Working through the night, Martha and Waitstill Sharp burned all their notes and papers. After this night, they would keep no records of the refugees they smuggled out of Nazi-occupied Europe. For their own safety and for the safety of those they were assisting, nothing could be written down. What had begun as a seemingly simple church mission had turned into a very dangerous situation. The Sharps had recently left behind a life of comfort and privilege in Wellesley, Massachusetts, where Waitstill served as minister. Now they found themselves secretly burning documents in an office in Prague, Czechoslovakia, on the night of March 14th, 1939. What had led to this moment? In 1938, an agreement called the Munich Pact gave the border regions of Czechoslovakia to the Nazis in exchange for a promise of peace. Hundreds of refugees fled to Prague's Unitarian Church as Jews, political dissidents, intellectuals, and others targeted by the Nazis looked desperately for safety. The American Unitarian Association asked Reverend Sharp to visit Czechoslovakia and coordinate relief work there. The Sharps left for Europe in February 1939, leaving their children, ages 3 and 6, in the care of close friends from the Wellesley Hill congregation. When they accepted that mission, they did not know what lay ahead. At first, the Sharps' work in Prague included setting up a network of volunteers to obtain visas, passage, education, and employment for refugees. However, the situation for refugees rapidly deteriorated. When it became clear that the Nazis were approaching the city, the Sharps, instead of returning home, burned all their records and vowed to continue their work. The following day, the Nazis marched into Prague. On that same day, Martha guided a top resistance leader to asylum at the British Embassy. Stopped by Nazi guards 3 times, Martha used her American passport to get both of them safely through each checkpoint. A few days later, Waitstill arranged for a member of the Czech parliament to be smuggled from a hospital by hiding him in a body bag. The Gestapo, which were the Nazi police, would not allow the work of people like the Sharps to continue. In July, their office was closed and all of their furniture thrown into the street. Still, the Sharps stayed on. In August, Waitstill attended a conference in Switzerland and was not allowed to re-enter occupied Czechoslovakia. Under threat of imminent arrest by the Gestapo, Martha fled Prague alone. The Sharps reunited in Paris and sailed for home. In May of 1940, Frederick May Elliott, president of the American Unitarian Association, asked the Sharps to return to Europe as representatives of the newly formed Unitarian Service Committee. With much of Europe now under Nazi occupation, they worked from Marseille in Free France and in Lisbon, Portugal, the last port of hope for many refugees from Nazi-occupied lands. Like most of those resisting the Nazi regime in Europe, the Sharps had to get creative in their work to get people to safety. Once, disguised as a French peasant, Martha accompanied a man who was on the list of those most wanted by the Nazis. Together, they traveled to the Spanish border, where Martha distracted the guards so they would not discover him. When no extra tickets for the transatlantic voyage to safety were available, Martha gave up her own ticket so that he could sail to New York with Waitstill. Not all the battles the Sharps fought were against the Nazis themselves, however. Martha worked tirelessly to find ways to break through the anti-Semitic United States immigration bureaucracy to allow Jewish children to come to the United States. Ultimately, the Sharps, along with others at the Unitarian Service Committee, helped more than 2,000 people escape from Nazi persecution, and they did not do this work alone. They had the support of Unitarians in the United States, as well as allies and other humanitarian agencies working in Europe. From the very beginning, The Service Committee knew that partnership and teamwork were critical to defending human rights and saving lives from oppressive regimes. UUSC continues to honor the courage and compassion of the Sharps today by working to advance human rights and challenge oppressive policies around the world. And just like 80 years ago, we can't do it alone. We need the help of people just like you to make our work possible. Thank you for being a part of the legacy of UUSC, and thank you for being part of our future as well.
Let us begin our meditation time by listening to a short video about UUSC and its work.
UUSC has spent 80 years serving communities facing injustice. We invite you to join us as we move deeper into the work of advancing human rights across the globe. Our world is crying out for us to face and address challenging, complex, and intersecting human rights issues like climate justice, dehumanizing and deadly immigration policies, and the criminalization of people because of their identities. At UUSC, the heart of our work is a commitment to partnerships rooted in trust and respect. With our partners, we strive to affirm the worth and dignity of all people by advancing human rights and dismantling the systems that oppress people. The lifeblood of our work is the support of our members. Building collective power is the work of every person of faith and conscience. We need your support to strengthen movements for justice. Together, we are building a better world that respects every person's inherent worth and dignity. To join our Text to Action team, please follow the instructions below. It takes all of us to build a better world.
Mary Kathrine ended the video by saying, "It takes all of us to build a better world. So what can I do? What can you do to build a better world?" How do we speak up? How do we promote justice and peace? How do we support those who can go for us into the world to confront and address injustice and promote justice, peace, and human rights? UUSC, our service committee, can go for us. In a moment of silence, let us reflect on what we individually can do in partnership with UUSC to build a better world. Let us now focus on our home community, our church community. Most likely, we each know individuals or groups of people for whom we are concerned. Please think of them now. I now invite you to say the name or names of people for whom you are concerned and who need our care and support. May all those whose names which were spoken and those unspoken find peace and healing today.
This reading is called Thank You, Climate Strikers by Rebecca Solnit. It is an excerpt from a letter that first appeared in The Guardian on March 15, 2019, at the time of the first youth-led global climate strike. I want to say to all of the climate strikers today, thank you so much for being unreasonable. That is, if reasonable means playing by the rules, and the rules are presumed to be the guidelines for what is and is not possible, then you may be told that what you are asking for is impossible or unreasonable. Don't listen. Don't stop. Don't let your dreams shrink by 1 inch. Don't forget that this might be the day and the pivotal year when you rewrite what is possible. I don't know what will happen, because what will happen is what we make happen. That is why there's a global climate strike today. This is why I've started saying, don't ask what will happen, be what happens. Today, you are what is happening. Today, your power will be felt. Today, your action matters. Today, in your individual action, you may stand with a few people or with hundreds, but you will stand with billions around the world. Today, you are standing up for people not yet born, and those ghostly billions are with you too. Today, you are the force of possibility that runs through the present like a river through the desert. Here ends the reading.
Greetings, friends. We are glad to join your worshiping community today for this UUSC Sunday service. Thank you.
Hello, Justice lovers. It's good to be with you in this virtual way.
Like you, we at UUSC are finding our way in this difficult time. In addition to adapting to social distancing, working from home, homeschooling, caring for loved ones, mourning our losses, and finding new ways to connect, we are also discovering all the ways we are called to pivot in our work for human rights. Over the last weeks, we have reached out to all of our partners around the world. We are hearing from them and learning about the ways the pandemic is posing new threats to communities already facing so many long-standing threats. Together with our partners, we are striving to be nimble and creative in responding to needs that are emerging. We feel grateful for our history of deeply rooted partnerships, which makes it possible for us to move quickly to respond. For all of us committed to being a part of creating a world transformed by justice, we know that these commitments are more important now than ever, that it is in times of crisis that human rights for all are most at risk. We are grateful for this opportunity to share how UUSC works for a world transformed by justice, to share what has always guided our work and what guides us still. When we think of social justice and human rights, we often think of words like resistance, fortitude, resilience, and courage, perhaps especially courage. And sometimes this stops us. We know courage. We've seen courage. But we often think of courage as something other people have. So today we want to start with imagination and move to hope. Because the courage to imagine and hope for a new world, a world reflective of the values we cherish, is exactly the courage we need. Imagination and hopes are acts of courage because a vision of what more is possible demands that we move away from the sidelines. Imagination invites us to see beyond the current systems and norms, and hope points us toward new regenerative systems and norms reflecting the values we share.
80 years ago, in the face of rising Nazi repression, Unitarians imagined a different world, a different response from the US isolationism. They knew there was a beloved community that cared about human rights across the country and around the world. And then they asked themselves what they needed to do to get closer to that different world. They asked themselves who else shared their vision for that beloved community. And they asked themselves what they were willing to risk to live their values in the world. They chose to form and support the Unitarian Service Committee. Now, I realize I keep saying they, but in reality, we chose to form and support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. You choose to form and support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Those people 80 years ago were not separate or different from us, from you. They were regular people living average lives, worried about their jobs and children and bills, just like us, just like you. They were overwhelmed by the state of the world in a time of fear and pandemic, fascism and war, anti-Semitism and racism, just like us, just like you. When the opportunity arose for them to make a difference and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people across the world, they took action with their time, with their money, with their influence, just like us. Just like you do every time you write a letter to a politician, go to a protest, volunteer your time, or give your money to UUSC and our partners.
For 80 years, our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, your Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, has been working in partnership with those most directly impacted by injustice to create a different world, a beloved community where every person's rights are honored and protected. We joined with migrant workers in Texas in the 1940s as they fought against exploitation. We launched desegregation projects in Georgia and Florida in 1960. In 1978, UUSC sponsored the first congressional fact-finding mission to El Salvador as violence there escalated. In the 1980s, we sent emergency funds to ease the Ethiopian famine long before the story reached mainstream U.S. news. We sent emergency medical equipment to Rwanda in the 1990s and then launched the Drumbeat for Darfur campaign in the 2000s to help end the genocide in Sudan. In 2010, we went to Haiti to assist with immediate relief after the earthquake and remained to partner in long-term recovery. Today, UUSC works with organizations in Central America, Mexico, and the United States on the forefront of migrant justice as we seek security for people who wish to remain in their home countries, safety for those traveling along the migrant trail, and justice once people reach the United States. We partner with First and Indigenous communities in the South Pacific, Louisiana, and Alaska, who are on the front lines of the climate change crisis as their homes and way of life are threatened by rising sea levels and rising temperatures. We are working with Rohingya leaders as they seek justice and healing for their communities following genocide and forced displacement from their homeland by the Burmese government and military. And we are joining with the minority Haitian community in the Bahamas after the devastation of Hurricane Dorian as they seek to rebuild their lives with no access to government assistance. I know sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, things can feel hopeless, like the world is moving farther and farther away from our values, from all the progress we have tried to make.
At the time of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's founding, when it was officially known as the Unitarian Service Committee, the world gave few signs of moving in a better direction. The work of UUSC began in 1939, when Hitler's Germany was dragging all of Europe into war and laying the groundwork for the Holocaust. Thousands of refugees were already displaced from their homes and forced to flee religious and political persecution as the Nazis took power. When Martha and Waitstill Sharp opened the first office of the USC in Prague, they met an embattled Unitarian community at the Unitaria Church that had to preach their opposition to the Nazis in double meanings. During the German occupation of the city, the Nazi secret police began monitoring every sermon given at the Unitarian congregation, listening for subtle messages of dissent. A few years later, they found what they were looking for. In 1941, the minister of the Unitarian congregation, Norbert Čepek, was arrested and deported to the concentration camp at Dachau, where he was killed with poison gas the following fall. Čepek had been personally named by Hitler on a list of 10,000 politically suspect persons slated for murder. Čepek wasn't the only figure associated with the founding of UUSC to make the ultimate sacrifice for human rights. UUSC's early work in Prague involved helping refugees apply for visas and process other paperwork they would need to seek safety abroad. Similar to UUSC's current model of partnering with directly impacted communities, the Service Committee's first employees were Jewish refugees working to protect the rights of their own community. At the time, Jewish people in Prague were already facing persecution under Nazi occupation, and all the warning signs of the coming genocide were in place. They therefore knew the risks they took by staying in the city to help others. Nevertheless, historian Elizabeth Subeck writes, they delayed their own immigration efforts to help other refugees. Ultimately, none were able to emigrate or avoid deportation to the concentration camps. In the face of genocide, religious persecution, political assassination, and all the worst atrocities the human imagination has ever devised, it was an indescribable act of courage for these women and men to hope for a different world.
As it always is. In the face of genocide, religious persecution, political assassination, and all the worst atrocities the human imagination has ever devised, men and women fighting for liberation display indescribable courage. I am in awe of the courage I have seen and learned about through our partnerships at UUSC. And I have also come to understand that the first and most important thing required for courage is imagination. In the reading, activist and author Rebecca Solnit thanks the youth leaders for being unreasonable. She might have also said, thank you for imagining there is another way. Your being unreasonable is what we often hear when structures of power are challenged, when youth challenge their elders, when indigenous leaders challenge colonizers and industry and demand protection of community sources of water, when congregations, perhaps like yours, challenge authorities and regulations by welcoming a person into sanctuary. Vision and imagination about how things might be different are often discouraged and dismissed by the status quo. And when we allow ourselves to be discouraged, when we resign ourselves to our illusion of powerlessness, when we're cynical, when we don't believe there's another way, we are playing right into the hands of those in power. Our lack of imagination is a tool of empires and tyrants. It's how power gets away with conceding nothing. It's the courage we need right now. The courage to imagine. And the courage to imagine is so important now because it is through courageous imagination that we find the seeds of hope, radical hope, nourishing hope.
It's a hope born of courage that can best be described in the often quoted phrase by the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, the audacity of hope. These words we are so familiar with today originally appeared in a 1995 sermon in which Wright was reflecting on the ravages of racism and apartheid in South Africa. Wright took as the text of his sermon a painting by the Victorian artist George Frederick Watts, whose depiction of hope shows a blindfolded woman playing a harp. Wright analyzed the message of the painting in these words. The harpist is sitting there in rags. Her clothes are tattered as though she herself had been a victim of Hiroshima or Sharpeville. Yet the artist dared to entitle this painting Hope. See, in spite of being in a world torn by war, in spite of being in a world destroyed by hate, in spite of being in a world devastated by distrust and decimated by disease, in spite of being in a world where apartheid and apathy fed the fires of racism. In spite of all of these things, the woman had the audacity to hope. She had the audacity to hope and to make music and to praise God on the one string she had left. Friends, we have come as far as we have because justice seekers throughout time have continued to have the audacity to keep reaching towards another imagined possibility.
At UUSC, we have joined with audacious, imaginative, hope-filled people for the last 80 years. And with your help, we will continue this vital work for the next 80 years.
And the 80 years after that.
We will continue to go where justice calls, partnering with those most affected by disasters and human rights abuses.
So long as Unitarian Universalists, people of conscience and moral imagination, continue to join with us, we will be here to join in the struggle, to lend our weight to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, to keep turning courageous hope into action.
Thank you, my friends. Be well. Take good care of each other and keep the flame of justice kindled wherever you are today. Blessed be and amen.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song. We will not stop shouting.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop marching, praying, shouting right from wrong till the world can sing along. And when will the world sing along? What does it take to make change? When we see so much injustice, so much pain, so much struggle in so many places here and around the world, what can we do about it? On the personal level, we've been challenged today to be unreasonable. In today's reading from Rebecca Solnit, we heard her thank the young climate strikers for being unreasonable. From today's sermon, we heard Mary Kathrine Morn reflect on the courage of our UUSC partners when facing injustice and violence, and heard her note the necessity of being unreasonable when challenging unjust power. We can each find our way of being unreasonable to challenge injustice. Indeed, our offertory music, coming up next, will provide some fun as it challenges us to be a pain to bring about change. As you will hear in Alastair Mook's song, if you see something that's wrong, raise your hand and say, "That's wrong." Point it out and name that thing by its name. Don't stand by and stare. If it's wrong, it's your affair. Don't be quiet. Make a riot. Be a pain. Be a pain. Be a pain. One place we see people being a pain for justice today is in Myanmar. As human rights violations in Myanmar have continued to escalate following the military coup last month, hundreds of thousands of people have taken to the streets in peaceful demonstrations for democracy, but they have been met with violence. Scores of protesters have been killed by security forces, including 38 in one day last week, and over 2,000 have been arrested, including journalists and human rights activists. As many of you know, Doyle and I were in Myanmar in 2017, where we met with our UUSC human rights partners, mostly having to visit with them in secret because of the threat against those working with the Rohingya. This February 2nd, the day after the military coup, we participated in a Zoom call with partners to see how they are faring. UUSC is one of the few international organizations which have been able to get aid into Myanmar since the coup, providing assistance to our partners for physical relocation, communication security, transportation, humanitarian assistance, and advocacy, with a focus on reaching ethnic minority communities, including Rohingya. UUSC is providing direct assistance to communities on the ground while supporting our partners in their long-term struggle for ethnic and minority rights. This is unique. I can't be there, but UUSC, through supporting our partners, can. This is but one example of how our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee is making a difference around the world. UUSC can be where we cannot. We can't be in Myanmar, or in Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Hungary, Serbia, Croatia, the Philippines, Nepal, the Solomon Islands, Kiribati. But the Service Committee is working there with over 70 local partnerships in over 30 countries. And the Service Committee is our Unitarian Universalist human rights organization based upon our UU principles, starting with recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So while we can, each of us, be unreasonable and be a pain for justice in our individual lives and in our local community, another way we can bring about change, a way we can challenge injustice in the world, is to join together in supporting the work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. As you've heard Mary Kathrine Morn say, UUSC has joined with audacious, imaginative, hopeful people for the last 80 years to seek justice. Today's offering is for the work of the UU Service Committee. As you'll see on the screen, there are 3 ways to give. You can send a check to the church with UUSC in the memo line. You can go to the church website at firstuuwilm.org, or you can use the Gift Plus app. For both the website and the app, be sure to choose the Sunday Morning Collection. Thank you for making a difference with your gift. Now, before we hear how to be a pain for justice, let us join together as we dedicate our contributions to UUSC and to our church by saying together our offertory words. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
If you see something that's wrong, raise your hand and say that's wrong. Point it out and name that thing by its name. Don't stand by and stare. If it's wrong, it's your affair. Don't be quiet, make a riot, be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and go against the grain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. When Rosa Parks sat on that bus, she chose to make a fuss. She chose to break the rules and take the blame. Her choice to sit and fight helped to bring on civil rights, because one strong woman chose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they say you have to move, say I'll remain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Harvey Milk, he chose to run for the council board and won, even though folks said you can't because you're gay. One brave LGBTQ elected leader ran and knew you can change things if you choose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Tell them I won't let you make me feel ashamed. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Tennis star named Billie Jean told the world she had a dream that men and women would be paid the same. She refused to hit that ball till there was equal pay for all. She was a king because she was a royal pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they refuse to pay, refuse to play the game. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Kids from Parkland led the fight for something they all knew was right. They said it's time for us to finally make a change. If adults can't compromise, we must go march for our lives. They spoke out and led the charge. They all were pains. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. When you're faced with laws you know are just insane. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Oh, be a pain, shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and do us right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain.
In the spirit of activist and author Rebecca Solnit, when our dreams, our hopes for a better future cause them to admonish us to be reasonable, don't listen. Don't stop. Don't let your dream shrink by 1 inch. Don't forget, this might be the day and the pivotal year when we rewrite what is possible. With imagination and hope, with courage, may we build a new world.
As we extinguish the chalice, let us commit ourselves to being on our way with strong determination to promote justice and to stand with all who are working to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice. So be it. Go in peace.
you.